Let us pray. Holy and blessed Lord, we come to you, inadequate as we are, but loving you and loving our country, loving our children and our grandchildren and our neighbors. And we beg for your help in bringing us together. Lord, we see things so differently sometimes, but we need to band together to protect our country and our children. We pray for your help that we may find this common ground, that we may serve our country in serving you, and that we may go forth helping one another to do this arduous task. And we ask it in your most holy name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and with liberty and justice for all.
Good afternoon, everyone. Most of you know me, but for those who don't, my name is Missy Longacre. I am one of the founders of Patriots for the People, along with my husband, Bill. Last year, we held our rally in Valley Forge. We had decided it would be nice to go back to where it all began. We called it Rally for the Constitution. This year, with the help of my husband, Bill, and Wayne Ashton, we decided on Washington Crossing. It, too, has a significant history. Our plan is to make history to better our future. We decided that since George Washington crossed the Delaware in boats of determined men trying to make a difference, we would do the same. We may not be in boats, but we will take a symbolic ride across the bridge on bikes, in cars, or by foot. We call this rally Ride for Freedom. We wanted to honor those brave men of history. We are here as patriots to regain our God-given rights of freedom as Americans. I gave my first public speech last year at our first rally. Let me just say, after that first speech, I am no longer shy. I will stand and do whatever it takes to fight for my rights as an American. I know most of you here today are mothers and fathers who care about your children's future. I have fought many battles over the years for my children. I will continue to do what's right to make sure they keep their ability to pursue life, liberty, and happiness. Now is the time to take a stand. Help the Patriot movement. Together, we can all make a difference and change the direction in Washington. 8 years ago, I was taken out of my comfort zone. I met my husband, who took this shy, quiet mountain girl out of her element and moved her to the city. After moving to Chester County, I had a real awakening. I saw how the real world worked. Since you are here today, you must be interested in hearing about what we have to say about restoring our country to its former glory. We all know we can't fix stupid, but we sure can do our best to vote them out. We need to make some serious changes in Washington. We can start with the White House. Amen. 2 terms has been too many as far as I'm concerned. While we're at it, we need to close our borders too. No more free rides, because they aren't free. Our kids' futures depend on it. Obamacare has been a drain on so many people. Obama said that those who had insurance could keep it. He forgot to tell the insurance companies. So many have lost what they had and have been forced to do it his way. The Affordable Care Act isn't affordable for many. I have encountered so many people who say, my vote doesn't matter. It's a waste of my time. I actually was one of those people, but I'm here to say your vote does matter. I voted for the first time ever last November. We need to come together to make a difference. As the saying goes, united we stand, divided we fall. The middle class is losing ground. They can't afford to put food on the table, We need to make changes before it's too late. People talk about living the American dream. Well, let me tell you, that dream won't happen without some serious changes. We will be determined in our fight to keep Americans free with all the rights our forefathers worked so hard to establish. Thank you all for coming. We are encouraged to see you all here today, and I hope you enjoy the messages that our fantastic speakers have for you today. God bless America.
Good afternoon, Patriots. Thank you for attending the Ride for Freedom. My name is Bill Longacre. This location was chosen for its historic significance. Welcome to the field of concentration. This is where Patriot Americans gathered in force to cross the Delaware River to liberate Trenton from the Hessians. The main purpose of this rally is to unite Patriot groups, 3%ers, the 3-per Nation, all Patriots, bikers. We need to make a change in this country. I'd like to just take a moment here to thank some of the people that made this possible for us. Shadow Patriots of Pennsylvania, if you're here, if you could give them a round of applause after I name each of them, that'd be great. Delaware Valley 3%ers. PAC. It's Patriots Against Cop Killers. The Ohio Patriot Bikers. The Redeemed Brotherhood. Steel City Chapter Riders. The Veteran Riders Association. The Bucks Riders. Centurions. Patriots for the People. Convention of the States. Pennsylvania Militia and New Jersey Militia. I'd also like to put a special thanks out to our administrators who worked very tirelessly to make this event possible. Sergeant Robert Mansfield, Missy Longacre, Wayne Ashton, Craig Cook, our road captain, Dan Gray, and Derek Taney. We also want to put one more special thanks out to Jim Carroll from the Second Amendment Patch Company. He donated this banner for us and designed our patches. So if anybody's interested in patches, you can see us afterwards and we will give you his information. So everybody knows, Stephen Gronka is our videographer. This will be posted on Facebook and YouTube. CC is here on behalf of Bill Williamson, 9/11 Patriot Riders. All right, I hope you enjoy what the others have to say, and thank you all for attending today. I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
I have the privilege of introducing Sergeant Robert A. Mansfield. He's a retired U.S. Army sergeant. Sergeant Mansfield was the Republican candidate for Congress in the 2nd Congressional District in Philadelphia in 2012. Although he lost the race, he made history by receiving 40,000 votes, the most votes that any Republican has ever gotten in 20 years. Sergeant Mansfield is a committed conservative who believes in the social safety net, but it should not be used as a lifestyle. Sergeant Mansfield is a devout Episcopalian. For 26 years, Sergeant Mansfield has practiced the art of public speaking and speaking around the country. He has 20 years' experience in the financial industry. Sergeant Mansfield is the former CEO of R. Allen Associates, a commercial real estate and Euro medium-term note advisory firm. Former CFO of Ambiance Magazine, former Vice President of TutorServe, Inc., former CEO of Meredith Capital, Inc., former Vice President of Finance for the Co Group located in Toronto, Canada, former advisor to the Media Financial Group, provided advice on long-term financing and repo market operations. Sergeant Mansfield is also a hip-hop DJ and the official DJ of the Tea Party rap group, Enemy of the State. His stage name is DJ Politic. Sergeant Mansfield's theme, breaking the cycle of low expectations and excellence, is proven by example. His numerous citations include 2 Army Commendation Medals, the Iraq Campaign Medal with 2 stars, the Combat Action Badge, 6 Army Achievement Medals, the National Defense Medal, the Gold War on Terrorism Service Medal, the Army Service Ribbon, the Overseas Service Ribbon, the Armed Forces Reserve Medal with M device, and the Operation Katrina Humanitarian Service Medal. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to present to some and introduce to others Sergeant Robert Allen Mansfield.
From the rising of the sun to the setting of the same, he is worthy to be praised. Lord, I ask that you be with me as I present the word to your people this afternoon. I pray that you will decrease me and increase you. I also pray for all those who made the trip here this afternoon, especially my sister, Felicia, Kenny, Amani. Pray for our matriarch, our mother, Alice. Lord, give me the wisdom to speak your word, to speak truth, and to do it lovingly. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Ghost. Amen. Amen. And amen. I can't hear you out there too well. I apologize. I have to do this all the time with these microphones. Bill and Missy, be ever wonderful. Do not let the world change your mind. Felicia, you be strong. In your courage and your grace. Thank you for taking care of me through this long and arduous recovery process. My friends, I would not be here today, and I'm not supposed to be here today, but not for the grace of God and his mercy. This afternoon, our scriptural reference, it's from the book of Luke, chapter 7, verse 18 to 28. And the disciples of John the Baptist told John about everything Jesus was doing. So John called for 2 of his disciples, and he sent them to Jesus to ask him, "Are you the Messiah we've been expecting, or should we be looking for someone else?" John's 2 disciples found Jesus and said to him, "John the Baptist sent us to ask, are you the Messiah we've been expecting, or should we keep looking for someone else?" At that very time, he cured many people of their various diseases, and he cast out evil spirits and restored the sight to the blind. Then he told John's disciples, "Go back to John and tell him what you have seen and heard. The blind see, the lame walk, the lepers are cured, the deaf hear, the dead are raised to life, and the good news is being preached to the poor. And tell him, God blesses those who are not offended by me. After they left, Jesus talked to the crowd about John. Who is this man in the wilderness that you went out to see? Did you find him weak as a reed, moved by every breath of wind? Or were you expecting to see a man dressed in expensive clothes? Sorry, guys. No people who wear beautiful clothes and live in luxury are found in palaces, not in the wilderness. Or are you looking for a prophet? Yes, and he is more than a prophet. John is the man to whom the scriptures refer when they say, look, I am sending my messenger before you, and he will prepare your way before you. I tell you, of all who have ever lived, none is greater than John. Yet even the most insignificant person in the kingdom of God is greater than he. The title this afternoon, sir, ma'am, is Are You the One? I want you to turn to your neighbor, to your right and to your left, and ask them, are you the one? Are you the one? John the Baptist, the forerunner to Christ, the advanced man for Christ, he came down preaching the repentance and preparing the way for Jesus' baptism and his ministry. John was clear in his delivery. Repent, for the kingdom of God is near. John the Baptist came and he prepared the way and he baptized Christ. So I think that the scripture here says, or one could infer that John was struggling with his faith. I dare say not. I think John was not struggling with his faith, but preparing his disciples to go with Christ. Why do I say that? John was just days away from being beheaded by Herod. And his disciples needed to be clear about Jesus Christ. George Washington, the father of this nation, came to this country, was a statesman, became a general, then became president, the first president of this great nation. George Washington prepared a country. He and Benjamin Franklin and others gave us a republic, if we can keep it. So the proverbial question that I asked earlier is the same question that I believe George Washington would have asked. Are you the one to keep this republic? Or should we be looking for someone else? If it's the latter, we have a problem. The way it looks right now, they ain't anyone else. I say it again. There ain't anyone else. It's just us. And we have to have the strength and the fortitude to carry forward. The days are rough. You see all kinds of mess going on. And just recently in Philadelphia, the Southeastern Transportation Authority just decided to ban offensive advertising. And that's subjective. Who's to decide what's offensive and what's not offensive? Who's to make that decision? We, as a movement has to be prepared to take back this country and put it on the right track. What's the right track? Our Constitution is not a book of suggestions. Well, I suggest you have the First Amendment right. Well, I suggest it's a suggestion that you have a Fourth Amendment. But I can stop and frisk you anywhere I want. I can do whatever I want to you. It's a suggestion. The Constitution is not a living and breathing document. It is a static document. It is very difficult to amend this document for a reason. We cannot afford to have people treat this document as a slinky. These are suggestions, and we have to go with the times here. And no, to be secured in your persons and your things, to have the ability to pray, to worship as you see fit, to be able to tell someone, I'm sorry, dog, I can't participate in that wedding. Or I can't participate in that event because of my religious beliefs. We have to be able to stand up and say, this document is sacred. It's not as sacred as the Bible, but it's the second sacred document. It's very sacred. And it's to be followed. When we say stop spending, we mean stop spending. When we say shall not be infringed, we mean shall not be infringed. Amen. What part of shall not did you miss? The shall or the not? When we say you don't need to collect our phone data because we're not terrorists, that's what we mean. When we say no, no means no. We're not cheap dates here. We're taxpayers. We pay the bills. And many of us have put our lives on the line to protect this document. I can't give an account for what the people in Iraq does. If they don't want to fight for their own country, well, it sucks to be them. I fought for this country. If Hamid Karzai can't get it together in Afghanistan, well, it sucks to be him. I live here in America. I salute the American flag. I don't salute the African flag. I don't salute an Arab flag. I salute the American flag. Yeah. Yeah. Therefore, it is this Constitution that we should be protecting. So are you the one? Or should we look for someone else? Maybe I'll outsource it. I'll do what Iraq does. Iraq is outsourcing their fighting to everybody else. Guys, we bled in Iraq. We died in Iraq only to have these cowards retreat and run and give their land to ISIS and take our stuff. They ain't the one. You're the one. You're here today because you are the ones that will carry this country forward. And I know it gets tiring. And I know it's just frustrating. People calling you all kinds of names. I get called Uncle Tom. My name is not Tom. My name is Robert. I'm Uncle Robert. Call you names, redneck, racist, xenophobe, homophobe, this phobe, that phobe. How about you're not the only one with truth here, buddy. Your way of governance doesn't work here. This is a constitutional republic, not a damn democracy.
Right.
And it's time that we read the Constitution and understand Article 4, Section 4. Amen. This is a constitutional republic. So you are the one. You're the ones that's going to carry this country forward. And I hope that you pass this down to your children and your grandchildren. The First Amendment, the Second Amendment, the Third, the Fourth, the Fifth, all these amendments are important, or they wouldn't be in the document. Finally, this week, I've had the honor of burying some true Americans who put it on the line for this country. We can't let them down. We cannot let them down. We cannot let our men and women in uniform we cannot let them down. We have to stand for them, fight for them, fight for the unborn, fight for these children. And yes, we're going to have to go and fight for these inner cities. As tough as it seems. We're down in North Philadelphia. We're fighting. We're telling young people, you need to go and close these abortion clinics down. You need to start talking about school choice. The time has come for America to end the practice of condemning poor kids to bad schools on a take-it-or-leave-it basis. It is racist, and that's fundamentally un-American.
Right.
Civilian in peace, soldier in war, of security and honor for 3 centuries. I have been the custodian. I am the guard. I was with Washington in the dim forest, fought the wily warrior, and watched the dark night bow to the morning. At Concord's Bridge, I fired the faithful shot heard round the world. I bled on Bunker Hill. My footprints marked the snows at Valley Forge. I pulled a muffled oar on the barge that bridged the icy Delaware. I stood with Washington on the sun-drenched heights of Yorktown. I saw the sword surrender. I am the guard. I pulled the trigger that loosed the long rifle's havoc at New Orleans. These things I knew. I was there. I saw both sides of the war between the states. I was there. The hill at San Juan felt the fury of my charge. The far plains and mountains of the Philippines echoed to my shout. On the Mexican border, I stood. I am the guard. The dark forest of the Ogonee blazed with my barrage. Chateau Thierry crumbled to my cannonade. Under the arches of victory, I marched in legion. I was there. I am the guard. I bowed briefly on the grim corridor. I saw the light of liberation shine on the faces of my comrades. Through the jungles and on the beaches, I fought the enemy, beat, battered, and broke him. I raised our banner to the serene air on Okinawa. I scrambled over Normandy's beaches. I was there. I am the guard. Across the 38th parallel, I made my stand. I flew Mig Alley. I was there. I am the guard. Soldier in war, civilian in peace, I am the guard. I was at Johnstown where the raging waters boomed down the valley. I cradled the crying child in my arms and saw the terror leave her face. I moved through smoke and flame at Texas City. The stricken knew the comfort of my skill. I dropped the food that fed the starving beast on the frozen fields of the West, and through the towering drifts, I plowed to rescue the marooned. I have faced forward the tornado, the typhoon, and the horror of the hurricane and flood. These things I know. I was there. I am the Guard. I have brought more abundant, a fuller, a finer life to our youth. Wherever a strong arm and valiant spirit must defend the nation in peace or war, wherever a child cries or a woman weeps in time of disaster, there I stand. I am the Guard. For 3 centuries, a soldier in war, a civilian in peace, of security and honor, I am the custodian, now and forever. I am the Guard.
Hoorah! Hoorah!
Thank you, Robert. He's pretty awesome, isn't he? Robert, could you come up here for a second, please? Thank you. Patriots for the People would like to present him with one of our patches for his fine work. He does this for free. He's awesome, isn't he? Thank you. Our next speaker is Bill Pizzullo from Convention of States, and he's also an oath keeper. Please welcome Bill.
Who's ready?
We're ready.
Ready for what? That's a good question. It's a good question. You must have served. Who's ready to take back the liberty that thousands fought and died to secure, protect, and defend?
We are.
Are you?
We are.
Well, then let's talk about that. Because when I'm done today, I will have put some tools in your hand that will empower you to actually be a force for change in the United States of America in 2015. First, I have to talk about guns. Guns cause a lot of people a lot of problems. They caused the British some problems. 1775, they tried to take the gunpowder from the colonists. Colonists got a little upset about that, and that ultimately triggered the Revolutionary War. We finally won our freedom, defended it when the British came back to try and take it again. Civil War, there were some folks that were kind of left out. We fought a war to free them. Some people said those Americans shouldn't have guns. So once again, they tried to take the guns because they figured they'd be causing problems. No discussion of guns would be complete if we didn't talk about what the totalitarians like the Nazis and the communists did. Take everybody's guns. The common theme with every atrocity committed against society is that first, the people are disarmed. In America, we have the Second Amendment. Second Amendment stands in the way of people that just want to unilaterally disarm us. It makes life pretty complicated for people that want to infringe on our rights, because the founders understood that an armed society is really the only true way to defend freedom. Now, our founders wrote a constitution, figured out how the government was supposed to work, and yet they didn't include guns in the Constitution. No mention of it. They did talk about amendments, though. That's what I'm here to talk about, because an amendment is a powerful tool. You know why I know that? Our Constitution wouldn't have passed if there had been guns in it. And yet, with the power of a single amendment, liberty is defended in the United States of America, and we set an example for what liberty can do for all mankind. That's the power of an amendment. And that's what I'm here to talk to you about. So we had this Constitution. Basically, they sat down, they said, okay, this is what the Congress is going to do, this is what the executive branch is going to do, this is what the the judiciary is going to do. Then they took an article and described like how the states are supposed to cooperate with each other. And the very next thing was they talked about how to add amendments because they figured that maybe they didn't put enough power into the Congress and they might have to add some, or maybe they gave too much power to the Congress and we might have to take some away. So amendments made a good idea to the founders. We could give more power to the government, we could take some away. Quick history lesson. Somebody answers this right, you get a prize. What is so special about 1789 and amendments?
Bill of Rights.
Bill of Rights is close, that's half the answer. I'll give you a hint. 17, 12, and 10, and then never, ever again. 17, 12, and 10, then never, ever again. The Congress passed 17 amendments that they thought should be added to the Constitution. 12 of them made it through the Senate. 10 of them became the Bill of Rights. Now, what's so special about that? 1789 was the last time the Congress of the United States got together and introduced amendments that would limit the power of the federal government. Every time after that, they have given us more and more amendments that gave the government more power. And basically, George Mason, one of the founders, he knew what would happen. He said that if we left it up to Congress, no amendments of any good for the people would ever be proposed. And you know, he was right. Fast forward a couple hundred years, you have Mark Levin explaining, we're in a post-constitutional republic. What does that mean? Well, that means that the legislature have forgotten their responsibility to mind the purse. We're $18 trillion in debt, right? Who's going to pay the $100 trillion in unfunded liabilities? Somebody pointed out that the top 5% control half the wealth in the world. Half the wealth in the world, they figured out, was $20 trillion. Double that. All the money in the world is $40 trillion, and we're in hock for 100. Where's that money going to come from? That's the Congress. Judiciary, they're unelected lawyers, and yet they put themselves into every single issue that they think they might want to have something to say about. They have made themselves the top branch of government and the final arbiter, which it doesn't say that anywhere in the Constitution. Amendments can fix that. And what about that executive branch? Isn't he supposed to be following the Constitution? Does he? No. Does the executive branch serve the Congress and serve the people? No. What about those three-letter words, the IRS, the EPA, the ATF, the DHS? All these organizations are designed to regulate and take away your rights, your liberties, your freedom. And in the name of what? In the name of government? That's not in our Constitution. And we've unleashed, with the power of the Congress, excuse me, and the executive working together, scores of bureaucracies. What did they say in the Declaration of Independence? Sent forth his officers in swarms to harass the people? And that's exactly what's happening now. Excuse me. So we have a system that's supposed to be checks and balances. Right? Think about that for a second. Checks and balances. It's turned into they write the checks, we pay the balances. And I say that's wrong. So they ask me, is the Constitution really the problem? No. It's the interpretation of the Constitution. The interpretation being made by the Supreme Court, it's the ignoring of the Constitution by the Congress and by the executive branch. The people need to replace Supreme Court interpretation with representative decision making. Oh, thank you very much. I got a refill. So, the question is, how do we get these amendments into the Constitution where more people than just the 535 there in Washington can get a chance to talk about it? Well, that's what Article 5 is. Article 5 is right there in the Constitution. It came before the Second Amendment. It came right after the government was laid out. The first thing they did was tell people how to change it. It's meant to be used. Now, Jefferson's accused of not wanting to change the Constitution, but you know what he said? He said these people that wrote stuff in bygone days, we put them up on pedestals. And we think that their stuff is like the Ark of the Covenant. Those are his words, not mine. And he also said that 40 years in government is well better than 100 years of book reading. And let me tell you, if those people that wrote this stuff could rise from the dead, they would tell you the same thing. They didn't know it all. So let's really learn from Jefferson. Admit the fact that it might be the best effort, but they were smart enough to give us a way to change the Constitution. There's another founder. his name is George Mason, he thought that no amendments of any kind would ever be obtained by the people through the Congress. And so we're here with the Constitution. Everybody will say, well, let's use the Constitution. Let's fix our problems with the Constitution. Well, they're deluded. We're operating under the Constitution, and everybody agrees we're not getting better. The three branches of government are now colluding with each other to bring forth things that are not necessarily the will of the people. If you watched the unconstitutional portions of the Affordable Care Act go to the Supreme Court, you'll see the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary all colluding to totally pervert the will of the people. So, how do we really amend the Constitution? In school, they don't tell the truth. They only tell half the story. They tell the kids that amendments are proposed and have to be passed by 2/3 of both houses. Then they're approved by 3/4 of the states through ratification. The problem is, as Mason said, amendments would be necessary because there might be a chance, let me quote here, that the national legislature might abuse their power and refuse their consent on their very account. He knew the government at some point would come around and not listen to the people. He went so far as to say those gentlemen who will be elected senators will fix themselves in the capital town and become citizens of that town more than your state. Here's a guy who knew. So there is a second way, however, to amend the Constitution. Well, you don't throw it out, you amend it. You put pieces in place that a lot of people agree on, and you use that to restrain the government. And that's the job of these folks over here, the Convention of States volunteers, who are equally well represented in all 50 states, to educate legislators and people like you about the other way that the founders intended for the people who own this government, the states who birthed this government, to actually take control of it without asking the permission of the government. Simply stated, Article 5 says that, describes how the Congress can recommend their own amendments, but it also says that on the application of 2/3 of the several states, Congress will call a convention for the purpose of discussing amendments. That's all. Let's get representatives, if 2/3 of the states would like to send people to have a meeting and talk about ways that the government could be further restrained and could actually propose an amendment that would do that, that they think would pass 3/4 of the state legislatures, that work product should come out. That's a brilliant idea. Everybody should play to their strength. We should have more people coming up with more ideas that are ultimately decided upon by more people that are closely tied to their local representatives, not distant rulers in a foreign capital. And that's the idea of a convention of states. Basically, Convention of States is trying to get uniform language in all 50 states, in all 50 legislatures, that says basically we'd like to ask Congress to call a convention for the purpose of proposing amendments to restrain the power of the federal government, to restrain the financial excesses of the federal government, and to restrain federal overreach.
Good idea, isn't it?
How many of you think the Congress of the United States would ever recommend any amendment to the Constitution that would do any of those things? So now you understand why the founders did it. Give yourselves a pat on the back. You've figured out what the founders knew hundreds of years ago. Why'd they add that? Here's Madison again. Should the provisions of the Constitution found not to secure the government and rights of the states against abuses on the part of the United States, the final resort within the purview of the Constitution lies in the amendment of the Constitution according to a practice applicable by the states. That's what he said. If the federal government is abusive, the states should have a right and a way and a mechanism to fix it. Everything else was in our Constitution, so was that. So here it is. The founders knew that a convention of states could curb the abuses of Washington. They put the ultimate check inside of Convention of States. So what's our big picture? Our mission in the Convention of States is to urge and empower legislators to call a convention of states to propose amendments to the Constitution to curb the abuses of the federal government. And that's with the understanding that any work product that comes out of this convention would have to go out to each state legislature and be ratified by the legislatures of 3/4 of the states in the affirmative. And then, without asking the permission of the Congress, of any senator, of any Supreme Court justice, of the President of the United States, then the states can exert their will and their power over the federal government and take back what is theirs and ours, namely liberty in the United States of America. That's what Convention of the States is trying to do. Nothing short of saving the republic that so many are agreed is losing its footings, losing its moorings, losing its ability to lead and shine on and set an example to the world of the benefits and the blessings of liberty. Because what we learned in the first 200 years of this country is that the blessings of liberty unleashed the most powerful forces of economic prosperity, of religious freedom, of personal freedom that history had ever seen. Amen. And that is why in the Constitution of the United States, the purpose of this government, which we spend trillions of dollars every year to run, the purpose of this government that's written in the preamble of the Constitution, the reason that people defend this document, the reason we came together and we actually got places to sign wasn't health care. It wasn't free cell phones. It was to secure the blessings of liberty unto ourselves and to our posterity. That's what America is for. That's what we need to be doing again. And if that's what we're really here for, well, how much should we spend to defend liberty? What about those guys who were here in those icy winters? Thomas Paine said of liberty, "What we obtain too cheap, we esteem too lightly. It is dearness only that gives everything its value, and heaven knows how to put a proper price upon goods, and it would be strange indeed if so celestial an article as freedom should be not highly rated." And with those words, and those were times that tried men's souls, with those words, people took on the greatest military force in the history of the military and stood up for freedom, for liberty. And they won. Now, I don't have to go back 200 years to talk about the importance of fighting for liberty. Liberty and freedom is not a natural state for man. It is natural for some people to try and take advantage of other people, to try and control others and try and subjugate others. That's been the history of history. Here's the shortest history of the world. The taxman cometh, the taxman taketh away, the people revolt. And it just keeps going on. That's world history. But let's take a look at more current times. A World War II veteran, patriot in his own right, President of the United States, said of his countrymen, "Today, we need a nation of Minutemen, citizens who are not only prepared to take arms, but citizens who regard the preservation of freedom as the basic purpose of their daily life and who are willing to consciously work and sacrifice for that freedom." Powerful words. President of the United States, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, calling on people each and every day to sacrifice, work, and defend freedom because he understood it. He saw freedom under attack. Fast forward a couple of years. The president spoke more plainly. "Freedom," the president said, "is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. It must be fought for, protected, and handed to them for them to do the same. Or one day, we will be spending our sunlight years telling our children and our children's children what it was once like in the United States where men were free. Some of the most powerful words I ever heard Ronald Reagan say, and God bless him for sharing them with us. So there you have it, guys. We had acknowledged the fact that freedom is under attack. We've heard presidents call for people to be willing to defend freedom, to actually work and sacrifice to do so. Let's go back to that Second Amendment. Who among you are ready to take up arms? Don't you hear people say we need to take up arms? It's time. It's the ultimate defense of liberty. If Thomas Jefferson were to ride in here on his bike today, park his Harley in the corner, come over here and say, "What's the grief, guys?" And we explain to him how outraged we are, how convinced we are that the federal government is totally non-responsive, and the time has come to water the tree of liberty with the blood of patriots and tyrants, because we have our rights, we have our arms, and the time has come. He would look at us, and he would ask, "Didn't you use the last constitutional, legal, considered, powerful, universally acceptable tool to restrain the federal government that you all have?" And if the answer to that question is no, then we have no one to blame but ourselves for the misery that falls on us and our posterity. So now I ask you again, are you ready?
Yes.
Then let's start. Let's start today. There's people around here with petitions that we're going to use to get our state legislators to accept their responsibility to defend us from federal overreach. This is an election year. Every one of your assembly persons in New Jersey is up for election. You've got elections out here in Pennsylvania. You've got elections in every state. You need to ask every representative who's facing you and asking for your vote, what have you done to protect us from the federal government? And if they can't answer the question, tell them they're not getting your vote until they can, because there's something easy they can do. They can sign a petition. They can get involved in their state house and move this forward. If you haven't done it yet, just take out your cell phone, go to conventionofstates.com, sign the petition online. Talk to us. Talk to your friends. Spread the word that actually amending the Constitution through the process that involves thousands of legislators all over the country, reviewing the work product of brave people who are going to come together and try and address these issues, is the safe, sane, legal, and utterly necessary tool we have to use. Because it is a tool. How many people here have guns? Here's a question for you. Are you prepared to use that gun in defense of your family and yourself and your life? Absolutely. Absolutely. You have the tool. You have the knowledge. You have the commitment to use it. Could I ever talk you out of using your gun to defend yourself and your family because there's a chance that somebody might take it from you and turn it against you? No. So don't let anybody tell you that we should not use our constitutional right to amend our Constitution and restrain our government out of fear that somebody might take it from us and turn it against us and use it against us. That hasn't happened in decades and centuries of history of the Second Amendment. It's not going to happen with the first implementation of an Article 5 convention because we understand it. The founders understood it just as well as they understood the fact they gave you a right to keep and bear arms. It is those rights. It is those liberties. It is that truth that will allow people to empower their legislatures, fix our government, and then secure the blessings of liberty unto ourselves and our posterity. Thank you very much.
Here at the tavern, we had some clams and helped organize this, and I just want to thank her. Thank you very much.
Okay, great.
Can I say something?
Yeah, I'll say something.
Go ahead.
So just a quick something. You've heard all about Convention of States, but I'd just like to share about George Nicholas, how he said that
when there was a question about whether or not the power of the federal government was too strong, he had said that it wasn't the case, because an enlightened people will never let what is used for their security to be used against them as an act of tyranny. And so today, as you guys all know, as we all know, we have something that is intended for our security used as an act of tyranny, the Constitution. And so what's the problem? And the problem is that we do not have an enlightened people. And so I just want to encourage you to not only take this message and sign our petition, but to go and educate your friends, neighbor, family, and anybody else who will listen. A few years ago, I did not know what was going on. I'm just a homeschool mom. I took a constitutional law course to help my daughter, and I am now an enlightened citizen. I now see what the Constitution says, and I see where our country is, and I know also that the way to get from where we ought to be, from where we are to where we ought to be, is a convention of states. So I really encourage you to not only sign our petition, but please become involved so that we can educate our people and restore our freedom. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, we're going to introduce our next speaker. His name is Matt Johnston. He's the national president of the Threepers Nation. Also, a little thanks a lot, Bikers, for showing up here today. You guys get it.
I want to thank everybody for showing up today. We had the national vice president was going to speak for us, John Sinquay, but he had some issues, so I had no time at all to get a speech written. So this is I'm winging it. Bear with me. I want to thank everybody for showing up today, and I want to especially thank any veterans that we have out there that have fought for us and for our country. Thank you guys very, very much. For the past few decades, our country has been in a very hard downward spiral, and here recently it's getting worse, and more people are starting to wake up to figure that out. I'm going to read you a little quote here. I'm sure you've all heard it. First they came for the communists, and I didn't speak up because I wasn't a communist. Then they came for the Jews, and I didn't speak up because I wasn't a Jew. Then they came for the Catholics, and I didn't speak up because I wasn't a Catholic Protestant. Then they came for me, and by that time there was no one left to speak up for me. Author unknown. That's where we're at. Everybody's selfish anymore. The only concerns they have are for themselves. They don't look out, you know, your lifestyle doesn't fit into my religion, or your lifestyle doesn't fit into my morals and my values. We all have liberties and freedoms, and we have to stand up for everybody, whether you agree with theirs or not. If it's protected under the Constitution, I mean, by not defending them, you're just whittling away at your own rights. And one day, something's going to happen, and one of your rights that you hold dear to your heart is going to get taken from you. And there's going to be nobody there to defend that. We all have to come together and put all those differences aside and unite as one, as Americans, to fight for this Constitution. That's the only way it's going to happen. This whole divide and conquer plan is working brilliantly. It's working brilliantly. There's so many groups fighting each other right now. I mean, just common, simple stuff. You got to get over that. You know, the inception of Threeper Nation was to unite the bike clubs. You know, there's lots of, you know, you got Waco down there. Everybody's talking about the 1% bike clubs now. You can't wear your cuts anywhere. You know, that's a bunch of bull crap. There's too many questions going on there. Way too many questions. And the answers are going to be very hard to come by because you have the state versus the state funding the state with the state defending you as the state versus the citizen. So you're fighting an uphill battle down there. We want to bring all the clubs together. So should shit hit the fan, pardon my French, that we're fighting on one front. You know, the government. That's the common enemy that we all have. They're stepping on us. Their boot is on our throat. I mean, we have to unite together. Whether you're a 3%, you know, a state militia, a Threeper group, you know, whatever club you're involved with, whatever organization, we need to come together. Work as one. You know, most of these groups they all fall flat on their face because there's too many chiefs, not enough Indians. I mean, yeah, you have to have a chain of command. I mean, you have to have discipline with everything. I mean, there's no doubt about that. But you have to put aside the petty differences and just unite and come together. I mean, you're going to have to, there's going to have to be people on the ground. I mean, period. I mean, it gets tiring talking to people and trying to wake them up, and then they want to go this direction and they want to go that direction. It's like, well, isn't the finish line the same finish line? I mean, why aren't we there? You know, why aren't you helping me to do that? Why aren't you helping that group to do that just because you don't like them for whatever reason? This stuff, it gets to me. It really does. Benjamin Franklin. Those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. Okay? The Patriot Act, the NDAA, they've been passing these laws for quite some time, all in the name of safety. You know, we have to watch out for terrorists, you know. And now we're all terrorists just for showing up here and assembling the way we are. We're terrorists, you know. We're you damn right. We're getting in the way of their ultimate goal and their power-hungry ways to retain that power. And with the Convention of States to rein that in, they don't like that. Oh, they don't like that at all. They will label all of us and put us all on a list. I mean, and I'm proud to be on one. I don't care. Come at me. I mean, I know all the ranges from my house. Okay, that's all I can tell you. We've got to unite. I mean, we have to. Everybody here. I mean, I've made friends last year when I was here. So many brothers and sisters. I have contact with them now. I mean, from Connecticut down to Florida, all over the country that I've met at rallies like this, and I maintain that contact. I maintain that brother and that sisterhood with these people, and they are truly family, as everybody here is in one way, shape, or form. I mean, we all love our country. That's why we're here. You know, I mean, we came up here from West Virginia. I came last year to Valley Forge. You know, I mean, traveling is worth it for these things. Went up to Connecticut to help them fight for their gun rights up there. I mean, you have to give sacrifices. You have to. Times are tough. I understand that. Lots of people couldn't show up today that I know because of financial issues, just because our economy's growing, right? You know, they keep telling us that. I'm not saying it. I got too many people that are unemployed and still looking for jobs and don't have the spare change to come out and do something like this, even though they want to. Got brothers that can't afford their cuts. You know, they want to represent and they can't afford. So you know, we do what we can to get those people what they need. I mean, it's bad. Being from West Virginia, EPA, yeah, they're killing us. They're killing us with coal, and been trying to tell them guys, you know, quit selling the coal to them. I mean, see how quick DC runs off of power, off solar and wind power. They don't like the coal so much, you know. I mean, they won't last because I mean it's a bunch of garbage. I mean that's why they keep going belly up, and we keep funding this stuff. I mean, we got Corridor H, the road to nowhere. I mean, they've been working on that for 10, 15 years, and it's going to be another 20 years before they get it done. Getting these roads built through all these mountains and stuff and the haulers. It's rough, but we need that federal money, so we got to play ball with them. We've got this guy, I like calling him Turncoat Joe Manchin. You might remember the Manchin to me bill. We see him all the time. I actually got him holding my cut, and he was clueless to what apparently the 3% was. So I was, you're holding your own demise there, Joe. And I've seen him many a times, and he does not think we need guns and that they're just there for hunting and whatnot. And I was glad to see him say that he was going to stay in the Senate and not come back and run for governor of West Virginia, thank God, because that wasn't going to happen, and we're going to get him out of the Senate here soon.
Good. Yeah.
That's happening. That's a promise. There are a lot of groups in West Virginia, one of them being the West Virginia Citizens Defense League. Connecticut has a Citizens Defense League. Virginia has a Citizens Defense League. And those are all groups that their one sole purpose is to lobby the local state legislatures for the Second Amendment. That's all they do, bipartisan. If you're a Democrat, you support the Second Amendment, and you're willing to put your name on a bill, and you're going to vote accordingly to that, we will endorse you all the time. If you're a Republican and you don't support the Second Amendment, Danny Jones, how he's a Republican, I'll never know. Mayor Charleston, he spent more money and spent more taxpayer dollars fighting Citizens Defense League than he has put into the roads full of potholes. He's a Republican somehow. Don't ask me how, but he is. And he got reelected. And that educating people, you know, like she said, you know, people are ignorant nowadays. They're just, oh, it doesn't have anything to do against me, so my life's fine, you know, I'll still get my paycheck, I don't care. You know, that leads you back to, you know, there's going to be nobody left to speak for you, to speak up, you know, to help you out with your issues. It's wasting away on us. And you have to most definitely teach your kids, because they're not getting it in school. Unless you're homeschooling your kids, they're getting indoctrinated by being in a public school system. And now they want to add 2 more years of community college on our dime. 2 more years of indoctrination. You know, so the next person that's flipping your burgers will have a college degree. You know, that makes any college degree useless, in my opinion, if everybody's got one. I mean, what separates us at that point? I mean, I'm a heavy equipment operator. I got a high school diploma, went a little bit of trade school. I work with engineers all the time, and they're morons. They went to school for 10 years, and they can't do basic math. They cannot do basic math. I have to deal with this on a daily basis. I'm not the smartest, and not the brightest, not the most articulate, but you know what? I understand our country, and I have common sense, which is a lost art. Not many people have it. You have to teach your children. You have to teach your grandchildren. You have to let them know, because liberty is only 1 generation away from being lost. And we've been so indoctrinated into it now that people just don't care, and they're all into their entitlements that I feel for it. I mean, we're very close to going under, and if this Convention of States doesn't work out to where we can rein in our country, I hope you're prepared. I hope you got food stocked up. I hope you have water. I hope you have skills. I hope you can get a fire started. Basic things. Live without electricity, because that's where we're going to be at. You're going to have to revert back to your instinctual caveman mentality. And I hope to God we don't get there. I mean, I hope the last thing I ever have to do is fire around in defense of my life or anybody else for any purpose, yet alone over the Constitution in my country. But if that's what needs to be done, that's what will be done. And there are many out there that feel that way. If a military coup is what it takes, that's what it's going to take. So I know our boys and girls in the service, that majority of them, they're not going to fire on us. You know, everybody's worried about Jade Helm and martial law and this and that. Jade Helm, you know, those guys aren't going to do it. They're just not going to do it. I know too many people in the military and in service, and they're not going to do that. They will not fire upon American citizens. They will disobey that unconstitutional order. And that's one saving grace that we've got. Get involved in your local politics. I mean, get involved, city council, county commission, your state legislature, get down with the governor, get people involved, and just keep spreading the word and educating people. There's quite a few colleges, I can't think of the one off the top of my head, but they have a free constitutional course that you can do online and get.
Hillsdale.
That's one of them. I know one Liberty University, I think, offers one also.
Hillsdale, right.
Right. Take those classes. Educate yourself. Help educate others. Spread that word that they can go there and, you know, and go online on their own time and convenience and take these classes to learn our Constitution. I mean, those are basic principles. I mean, they don't teach this stuff in school anymore. They want you to be stupid. They want your kids to be dumb. I mean, that's the way it is. That's what they want. Sheep are so much easier to tend to than wolves. With that, I just want to thank you guys for coming in. Like I said, I'm not much on public speaking, didn't have much time to get anything going, so I'm just winging it. But I thank every last one of you for showing up. God bless America.
Thank you, Matt. All right, we have next speaker is one of our administrators from Patriots for the People. He has a little treat for you guys. Then we're going to listen to the general after that. So enjoy what he has to say.
Come on, Derek.
I don't think we can get that tall enough for you.
That's all right, I'll work with it. Hi, my name's Derek Taney. Guess I should tell you a little bit about why I'm here. I've never voted in my life because I'd always seen it as a choice of what I personally saw as the lesser of two evils. Over the course of the last 6 years, I've come to realize that my inaction, along with millions of other American citizens, has resulted in a runaway train of tyrannical actions and egregious crimes against our Constitution, Bill of Rights, and those who have bravely fought, bled, and died for it. These are my daughters, Danielle and Devin, and my son's out in the crowd with you. And what I was leaving for my children was a future that was iffy at best because our government cannot continue as it is. If I continue to sit idly by and waiting for everyone else to step up, because the system will not magically repair itself. It has not, it cannot. This is the case. I've watched the government create divides in every chink of our armor as citizens, be it race, religion, creed, sexual orientation, or any other way they can find to divide us. As a divided nation, we are compliant and unable and ineffective to create any change whatsoever. As a united front, we can accomplish anything. Let this rally begin to serve as a healing point between us and help us educate others so that we may be effective in protecting our Constitution, Bill of Rights, flag, and of course our nation. And thank you all who have served in honor of this country.
Our next speaker is Mike Volb. He has some information he'd like to present to us on the Second Amendment. He's a real gun guy, so enjoy what he has to say.
Hi, I'm Mike Volb from Concerned Gun Owners of Pennsylvania. Behind me here is Eric Petroni. We're also with Firearms Owners Against Crime. Can you hear me now? There we go. Again, I'm Mike Volb from Concerned Gun Owners of Pennsylvania. This is also Eric Petroni. With us, we're also with Firearms Owners Against Crime. Don't know how many Pennsylvania residents we have here, and we don't, but it really doesn't matter because this kind of pertains to everyone. How many people from Pennsylvania have a firearms owners firearms law book? Handful of you. Good, good, good. Those of you that don't, go to your state representative's office and get one. And while you're there, open it to the part that says the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be questioned. Ask him why there's 174 pages questioning it. Make him answer it. If he can't, go to someone else. Make them answer it. The fact of the matter is, if we don't stand up and ask these questions, nobody's going to. Okay? Another thing, Pennsylvania residents. I'm not speaking ill of the NRA. I'm not speaking ill of National Association for Gun Rights. They're great organizations, okay? Too many people write a check to the NRA and expect them to take care of it. Then they don't go to the voting booth, okay? That's a problem. You need to know when you go and flip that lever who you're voting for. Sometimes they don't even go to the voting booth. They just expect the NRA to take care of it. Here in Pennsylvania, we just got Act 192 passed. The NRA had about that much to do with it. They got the credit for it, and it's not a matter of who gets credit. It's a matter of fighting for our rights, okay? So while we're out there and we're fighting to get Act 192 passed, and for those of you that aren't familiar with it, only the state can make firearms laws here in Pennsylvania. You cannot go township to township. I'm a legal gun owner here. I'm not a legal gun owner there. For instance, I crossed the bridge here into the communist country in New Jersey. Sorry, guys. It's what it is. It's what it is. I become a felon. Okay, as a matter of fact, coming up at a Citizens for Liberty rally up in Norristown, they will be having Shaneen Allen. She was just recently arrested over there. She will be there speaking. And they did the right thing letting her go. Little off target there, but long and the short of it is, if we don't keep on our state representatives, we're going to lose our rights. Now, here's what we're up against. Again, while I was out there with Act 192, trying to get that passed, when I say it's we. I was one of many, many out there. People did far more than I did. I was just a body. I was there to learn, to see what was going on. We decided to stop in State Senator Dalen Leach's office, and the guy I was with training me, he elbows me. He says, let's go have some fun, he says. So we stop in State Senator Dalen Leach's office, and if you don't know who this guy is, you should, because I want to know who the hell votes for these people. All right? His staff, 4 of them come out, and they surround us. And we started asking him questions on the Second Amendment and our rights here in Pennsylvania. And his staff, in no uncertain terms, tells us, looks us right square in the eye, the senator doesn't believe in the Constitution and wants it repealed. So now that's it. The spidey senses start going and the hair stand up on the back of my neck. And I actually had a cast on my leg at the time. And he says he believes every town should be able to make its gun law. So now I have to have fun with these clowns. And they're clowns, I'm sorry, they're clowns. Okay, so here's the line, and I'm here in Falls Township, I'm legal, and I go over here into Bristol Township, I'm not legal. And again, picture this, me dancing back and forth with a cast on my leg. I'm legal here, I'm not legal here. Well, that's right, we should have that. That's the right we should have. Okay, guys, now I'm on the border, one leg's in both. Do you arrest half of me? Yeah. They just didn't get it. Long and the short of it is, senators like him, representatives like him, they have a group called Ceasefire Pennsylvania in their back pocket. Who was Ceasefire Pennsylvania? A Bloomberg-funded group. They work, they are funded, they have paid protesters to come out and try to take your rights. They work 24/7, non-stop, to try to take your rights. We're volunteers. I'm nobody. I'm you. I'm you. If we don't have more of you coming out to fight against these people, it's tough. Now this is where I was going on about the NRA and so on. We fight for our rights right here in Pennsylvania. Okay. Again, please send your money to the NRA. I'm not telling anybody not to, but also to groups like Concerned Owners Against Crime, or Firearms Owners Against Crime, and Concerned Gun Owners of Pennsylvania.
Send us a check too.
We'd like to see something. There's nobody. NRA has paid people that go out also. We are all volunteer. Okay? We're looking to cover. You ever run to Harrisburg and back for a day? I guarantee it's a $100 bill between tolls and fuels. Okay? And it is. I mean, there was days I rode my motorcycle out just to save on fuel. All right? Most of it comes out of our own pockets. Okay? For your rights, for our rights. And all we're looking is just to recover some costs, which is what goes on. Again, Firearms Owners Against Crime, they have the Games of Chance license. They have all the proper documentation for funding and so on that goes on. Again, that's about all I have. The only other thing I have is you're looking around, and I'm sure everybody's disappointed at the turnout here. Okay? Don't be. Do not be disappointed at this turnout. Okay? Because every one of you represents 100 people. Okay? We are the silent majority. Let's face it. Okay? Some people don't get mad until they get punched in the nose, and hopefully it's not too late at that point. But we're also the people that are out working today, that are home with their kids and at their kids' activities and stuff like that. So again, while we're here, remember, you represent 100 more. Only thing I have more is please just get the word out. When you're going voting and you have a like-minded neighbor, friend, whatever, go over, grab them, let's go. Make sure he gets to the voting booth. Last thing, and I'll leave you with this. Firearms Owners Against Crime. Every election, they put out a voter's guide. And it doesn't matter if you're Democrat, Republican, Independent, Libertarian, Communist. It doesn't matter. Anybody that's running for office gets a questionnaire. If they answer that questionnaire and it is a pro-Second Amendment questionnaire, we don't care who you are, they will endorse your candidacy. They'll endorse you. It's up to you to handle that. That's all I got. Here's Eric. Thank you.
I only have a couple things for you folks. As far as the disappointment, it is a great day. We're glad that everybody showed up. As a Pennsylvania resident, I'm thankful for what my legislators have done for me. What you have to remember is that the best way to affect politics is not from the top down. You can't change the direction of a steamship by pushing it, but you can change the direction of a canoe with a paddle. So if you want to change the way this state is run, or eventually the way the federal government is run, you have to vote locally. How many of you voted in the primaries a couple weeks ago? I voted every election, every single election.
regardless of what it is. I voted every single election, and I try to educate myself. Mike talked about the FOAC, the voter's guide. Educate yourself on the candidates and what they can do for you, for your country, for your children, for everyone around you. What I would tell you is don't let them separate you into a minority. We are a nation of minorities. Is anybody here an American Indian? No. I am a little bit, very little. But every single one of us here are an immigrant, and we're originally in a minority. Okay? So you have to not let these people tell you that you belong to this group or that group. Vote as a unified front. Vote for what's important for our country, our children, our people, and the continuation of this nation. I would just say, I'll leave you with this, that the flame of liberty does not go out in an instant. It grows dimmer and dimmer every day until one day you turn around and you're standing in darkness. It's gone. It's hard to get it back. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to introduce William Palmer. He's part of the Convention of States. He's just going to throw something out here. Not going to take very long. Then we're going to hear from Stephen Gronka. And you don't want to leave until you hear from Dan Gray. He's the general. He's going to get you guys going.
Yeah, thank you very much today, and I thank Barbara Brock for inviting me down here to talk my talk. The problem today is the general versus the specific, and around February, March, I was looking at my tax bill, and then I saw the Sons of Liberty, and I just listened to Mr. Rich Pizzulli talk about taxes and how that always starts wars. Well, I laid out my W-2. We all hate April 15th, don't we? I laid out my W-2s for the last 4 years, and out of payroll taxes for 4 years, I laid out $92,000. And then I also laid out $30,000 for property taxes, or $123,000. I don't really mind the property taxes too much because it goes to educating the kids predominantly. But at the end of the day, where's all my money going? My $92,000 every 4 years. And that's the problem. And that's, you should really get your W-2 together. That's what we're about. We have an $18 trillion deficit. And where's all our money going? How many people are getting free meals and doing nothing? And that's why I joined Convention of the States, is to deal with this $18 trillion deficit, number one. The federal government created it, and it's expanding it, and it's time for us to take it. And I met Barbara, and she educated me on all of this stuff, and I appreciate it. And I want you, as one step, go look at your last W-2 and multiply it by 4. It's going to come out to $75,000 to $100,000 you're laying out between federal and state taxes. And that's it. And that's why I'm here. $18 trillion deficit. We're going to address that with the Convention of States. Thank you.
Thank you. He's right. They're awful good at spending our money, aren't they? Oh, yeah. All right. Our videographer, Stephen Gronka. We're going to be supporting an upcoming event on 9/11. This is very important. This can really make a difference. So let's listen to what he has to say. And then our key speaker, Dan Gray, will be after that. Thank you.
Stephen! Thank you, Bill. Everything that's being done with Article 5 movements is a great thing. But the one thing that we all see is that the politicians and the bureaucrats do not honor the Constitution. So what do we need to do in addition to trying to make our Constitution better through the proper amendment process? We need to start hauling their dirty butts in the court. These low-life scumbag dirtball politicians that think they can do anything that they want, have no accountability whatsoever, just totally violate our Constitution. And in doing so, they violate us. We just had a rally down in Florida called Red, White, and Blue Fest, where we got legal experts from around the country to come out and show people how to build cases in law to prosecute the politicians, the bureaucrats, and the power brokers. Now, everyone's talking about politicians and bureaucrats, but you have to remember that there's a background group of people call them whatever you want, Bilderbergers, Rothschilds, whoever. These people wield enough financial influence around the world to get the politicians and the power brokers to bend to their will. Everyone says, well, what difference does it make if a Democrat or a Republican is in office? Because they all look the same in the end anyway. Well, the power brokers have one set of policies that gives them what they want. So when these politicians start out saying, oh, we're going to do this, and then later on everyone says, well, how come they changed their mind? Their family gets a phone call, they get a phone call, their lives are threatened, their well-being is threatened, their families are threatened. Anyone who believes that this is only a conspiracy theory, just ask Harry Reid how much of a theory it was that pounded his face and knocked him out. This is a real thing that we're dealing with. We need to be able to go en masse into Washington and tell the politicians and the bureaucrats and the power brokers that we are going to start prosecuting them if they violate their oath of office, which that in itself is a crime, and if they commit other crimes against the people. So I encourage everyone out here to go to our website, Red, White, and Blue Fest on Facebook, and we're going to start posting the format for building a case against a politician, bureaucrat, or power broker and carrying that forward. The basic thing that you're dealing with is when you go into court, there's a specific set of words that you have to use. There's a specific sequence that you have to say those words in, and there's a specific procedure that you have to follow. We've talked to many people that have tried to build cases and they get thrown out right away, but that's because they haven't used that very specific process that you need to in order to do this. But this is something that has to be done. Until we start hauling them into court and hold them accountable, they're just going to keep on going and doing whatever they feel like doing with no accountability whatsoever. So go to that site, Red, White, and Blue Fest on Facebook, and you're going to start seeing the process, procedure, and the specific terminology that you have to use. I have a flyer here for the 9/11 Patriot Ride. There's some in the sort of purplish, really faded bag right next to the tripod. What we're going to do, in order to make the politicians know that we are dead serious about doing this, that this isn't just some sort of passing thing, we're going to use the 9/11 Ride, Patriot Ride. We're going to call on all the bikers, truckers, farmers, veterans, construction workers, miners, doctors, lawyers, teachers, you name it, people from every walk of life. And I encourage you to do a search on the internet for the citizen revolt in Iceland. 6 years ago, about that time, the citizens in Iceland were going through the same sorts of things that we're going through here. The bankers were controlling the country. They sent that nation into a real estate decline. There was a big bust. Everyone was worried and complaining like we are today, but they realized that the people ultimately have the power. So what they did, they rose up and they marched into the capital of Reykjavik. They surrounded their parliament building. This became a literal David and Goliath. They threw stones at the parliament until the members of parliament surrendered and gave up. This is a real thing. For people that don't believe that we can get together and have this kind of an impact, look that up. Citizen revolt in Iceland. They took all the members of parliament out. They had special elections and they elected people like us, just everyday people off the street became the parliament. All the financial and economic advisors from around the world, including the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund, were aghast at what happened, especially because the people said that because their country was in this real estate collapse, they wanted to forgive all the real estate debt. And all the experts said, oh, you can't do that, you're going to destroy your country. Well, they did it, and the country is thriving today. They're doing better than we are. We can do this. We can do this for real. So what we want to do is get masses out like they did for the 2 million bikers to DC. But we want to exceed that because the plan is to do what they did in Iceland. Let's surround our national Capitol building and surround the White House. And what we're going to do, instead of throwing stones, our stones are going to be the legal cases. We're going to announce in public to the politicians, the bureaucrats, and the power brokers that we're coming after them in court. We're going to haul their butts into court, and we're going to prosecute them for violating their oath and for committing other crimes against the people. So I've been asked by the Gold Star moms. A lot of people don't remember what Gold Stars are, but back in World War I and II, everybody pretty much knew what Gold Stars were. If you had a family member that was killed in action, you had a pennant that you hung in your window and it had a gold star in it. That showed that you had a family member killed in action. Hardly ever seen today. But those groups are still out there. And the Gold Star moms came to me and said, Steve, if you're going to march into D.C. and you're going to surround the White House and the National Capitol building, and you're going to read the list of cases and the politicians and the bureaucrats and the power brokers against whom these cases are being brought, we want to be the ones that step out front and read off that list of cases and the names against who those cases are being brought. So we're going to go in, surround the National Capitol building, surround the White House. Hopefully we have a couple million to surround each one. We're going to have the Gold Star moms out front. They're going to announce the cases and the names against who the cases are being brought. We're going to have the constitutional sheriffs and peace officers there representing the enforcement. We're going to have the oath keepers there representing enforcement. And then we're going to be backed up. We're going to back up those Gold Star moms with everybody that can possibly get to D.C. on 9/11. So that's the grand plan. We also have people right now that have legal warrants to serve on politicians. Now, last couple of protest rallies that went to D.C., I was at them. Truckers Ride for the Constitution. Then we had We the Truckers Ride for the Constitution. And a number of other Patriot rallies. And everyone said, well, let's stay away from the warrants and going after these guys and putting them in cuffs and hauling them out. For this ride, we're going in. The intention is that where we have legal warrants, those warrants will get served. Then we also want to duplicate this in state capitals across the country on the same day because, as has been said here, a lot of people can't afford to come out to these things. But if you ever got your resources together to get to an event, this is the one to go to because this is going to be our Iceland revolt. We're going to surround those guys. We're going to let them know we aren't going to put up with it anymore. We're going to name those cases and their names, and we're going to tell them we're coming after them. We're going to haul them into court. We're going to prosecute them. Yeah. So that's the grand plan. 9/11 Patriot Rally. We also have a trucker with a flatbed. He called up the other day, said, Steve, he said, do you mind if I put a gallows on a flatbed? Well, you know, back in the day, treason, which we have someone working in our group, Mark Urbach, he has documented, full documentation on 25 acts of treason by this present administration. So treason is punishable by hanging. So to have a gallows on a flatbed is very representative of what is supposed to happen to people that commit treason. In fact, in our history, there was a president who shot a person in front of the White House on the spot because he was convicted of treason. Back in the day, they didn't fool around with this stuff. Today, we're way too civilized for that. But is the way our politicians and bureaucrats treating us civilized? No. They haul us into court for anything that they want to think up. Like we said before, the Constitution doesn't mean anything to these guys. So until we start hauling them into court, we're going to have a hard time seeing anything change. We need to make the Constitution better. Article 5 movements are a great thing, but we have to back that up with the politicians knowing that we're for real, that we're going to take action, that we're coming after them, and we aren't going to quit. You know, everyone says, well, you go to court. That's not going to work because the courts are stacked against you anyway. Well, just think about it. This past year, Larry Klayman and the Strange family, for people in Pennsylvania are probably more familiar with the Stranges, Charlie and Mary Strange had a son who was a SEAL Team 6 member. He was the highest rated cryptologist in all the military. He was on the helicopter named Extortion 17. That was the one that got shot down in Afghanistan that had 30 special operators on it. Now, military policy for security is never have more than 5 special operators on any transport ever at one time, so they don't decimate a team. They had 30 on this one. There were 21 SEAL Team 6 members, and coincidentally enough, they were all SEAL Team 6 members that were on the team that got bin Laden. Well, funny thing about that, conspiracy theories, I don't know, when the facts are there, it's no longer conspiracy. This helicopter got shot down. The Stranges got a hold of Larry Klayman. They wanted to know what happened to their son. So as soon as they started questioning the military, what happened to our son, the military sicked the NSA on them, started monitoring every phone call they had. They were remotely going onto their computer. Mary Strange's picture was taken remotely through their computer on several occasions. The Stranges called the phone company. What's this number that called here? Person looks it up, not really knowing that's going to turn into something that they need to stay out of. This number came from an office in the NSA. Click. So the court case gets pressed. Larry Klayman pressed this case. They won the original case. The NSA naturally complained. They won the first appeal. I was with them at the second appeal, videotaped all that, and afterwards. They won the second appeal, so that's it. The NSA lost. So if people think that the court system won't work, forget that. Larry Klayman showed us. He gave us light at the end of the tunnel. This court system can still work. We do need to press things in common law court because common law was part of the founding of this country. So we can't abandon that. We need to reinstitute that. In fact, if you go into a statutory court today, which is the court that came through the illegal incorporation of America, you can demand to be heard under common law. But you have to have the specific words, the specific sequence, the specific procedure in order to be able to use that in court. So you have to really take some time and learn what the process and procedure is and the words. So let's go 9/11 Patriot Ride. Get out there, help support the Gold Star moms. Larry Klayman has given us hope. The people in Iceland have given us hope. We get together, we're a big enough crowd, we can make anything happen. Thanks for your time, and don't forget to take a flyer.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Steve. I'd like to introduce Dan Gray. He's one of the administrators for Patriots for the People. We'd also like to present you with this patch. This is a small token of our esteem for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I love you, man. You're a good guy.
I appreciate everybody's patience. It's a nice warm day here in Pennsylvania. Nice and humid. If you're from Pennsylvania, you're kind of used to that. I won't keep you too long, but before I make my remarks, I want to thank Patriots for the People. I want to thank all the groups, all the motorcycle and militia groups and constitutional groups who've decided to help out. I'd like to thank Robert Mansfield, and for Convention Estates, Rick and Barbara and Bill, Matt Johnson from Threeper Nation. Also, I'd like to thank Derek Taney. I'd like to thank Mike Volb, Eric Petroni, Steve Gronko, especially because Steve is the guy who's going to get the word out. We talked about people showing up. A lot of people do show up. They don't necessarily have the time or the money to make it to a rally. There's a lot of rallies that are going on, but they watch us. They see us on YouTube, and Steve's a big part of that because he gets professional video on YouTube so we can share it. And we're going to have to share the hell out of this one. Now, I don't know how long some of you have been involved with this. I've been basically doing this my whole life, since Watergate. I came from the other side, from the progressive side. I know people who've come from the hard conservative side, and we're meeting in the middle for liberty. And just a few years ago, you'd show up at one of these things, and there'd be 4 or 5 people, the same people, you knew them well. Events happened every 4 months, 6 months, 8 months. And now you have a choice. Every single weekend there's something going on. July 11th, I've been invited to speak at 4 different places. I can't do it. But I'm not worried about it. I'm going to pick the one that I can make and know and trust that the Patriots who can make those other events will also make them worthwhile. When I'm done, I'm going to bring Father Richard Davidson back here for a benediction for the rest of your lives after this long listening session. I want to start off with the situation report. Where are we at? It's not good, folks. It's bad. The economy is in the tank. First quarter GDP numbers are out. They're the worst of any president ever. We've got illegals coming here. Ann Coulter cites a fact, and while she is known for hyperbole, she goes over the top for a point. She's not inflating the numbers when she says that 1/4 of the nation of Mexico is now residing in the United States, and they're not coming here as legal citizens. I'm not trying to say that I don't want immigration. Even though our economy is hurting, immigrants are often better Americans than people born here. I work with a Mexican American, and he has the right to have a hyphenated name because Jesus came from Mexico the legal way, the right way, and helped fight the cartels in the banking industry at risk to his own life. And he's a better American than most of the people I live with and work with, and he shows up at PTA meetings and he never misses an election, and he knows who all of the candidates are. Our cities, they're trying to ignite them, and they're catching on fire. The police, and I know we have some law enforcement, I have some background in that as well, have made a mistake. The big mistake is that the thin blue line means more than their oath, because they swear an oath to the Constitution too. And the mistake they make is that in covering up for a brother police officer when they commit a crime, that does not make them a criminal too. And the mistake they make is in not keeping their oath when their boss, who is political, tells them that they're supposed to handcuff someone and tase them for having a brake light out because it's for their protection. I expect better for those of us who have stepped up in the fire service, in the police service, in any sort of service, nurses, doctors, teachers. I expect a higher standard. No one forced you into these positions where you have power over others. You have a responsibility to use that power wisely, and it will cost you, and you knew that going in. Domestically, we're in trouble. The only reason why it all hasn't hit the fan so far is because we've been able to spend our grandchildren's money. They're broke, folks. They haven't got a dime left to their name because we spent it on foolish things. The tax situation, which was referred to so eloquently, is broken. Here in Pennsylvania, Governor Wolf just said yesterday that he wants to increase education spending as if throwing more money would solve a failing system that already overspends tremendously. I'm not against teachers. My mother was a teacher. I am against waste, administrative, bureaucratic waste, government mandates, universal cookie cutter, one-size-fits-all education, testing, and teaching the testing, rather than teaching a person how to think properly so that they can make their own minds up. But the situation is also good. People are getting aware. Even those people who we all put down, oh, the sheeple, the ignorant voter, the low information voter. somebody referred to this today as saying that they really don't wake up until something happens to them. But something's happening to all of them, to all of us. It doesn't take a Shaneen Allen, who's, by the way, an awesome woman, who is now a national figure, who never wanted to be in politics, who's going to be speaking next week at Citizens for Liberty in Norristown. It doesn't take what happened to her to wake someone up. She was in Jersey. She was carrying. She has a legal permit in Pennsylvania. She was unaware of the law. This is a God-fearing, hard-working mother, a worker, with no legal problems in her background, who all of a sudden is a felon. Well, that, you'll have to look it up or go see her. That turned out to be in her favor and our favor, because people woke up, people got on their hind legs, and people did something about it. And now this reluctant woman, this ordinary American, happens to be a black woman. We don't care. She's a good American. And she's now a national figure who speaks on behalf of your rights. It doesn't take something like that. When you're taxed to oblivion, when everyone you know has a family member or a close friend who is long-term unemployed and can't find a job, when everybody you know has a family member or a close friend who's had a brush with authority, whether civil or criminal, which has ruined their life over, excuse my French, bullshit, people wake up. And they're waking up. And they're making a difference. You won't read about this, you won't hear about this if you pay attention to the mainstream media, but they're making a difference. And as, again, was so eloquently mentioned by Bill, no, I'm sorry, it was Bill. It's easier to move a canoe than it is to move a steamship. Locally, we are making a difference. In my township, Agenda 21 Light came up, the quality of life ordinances. They were being passed. I don't know who was funding it through the UN, Soros, Bloomberg, sorry. I don't know that, but I know that all of a sudden it was on everyone's agenda. There was huge money and advertising for it, and they were pushing this thing hard. Our township was the only one in the entire county that did not pass it because we woke up. Because a Marine, a Beirut Marine who's a friend of mine, who has time because he's disabled, truly disabled, and yet he still fights for liberty because his oath has no expiration date either. He found out about this, and I said, go to that township meeting if you've got time. And he reported back to me, and I wrote an article. The article got airplay. People listened to it. And all of a sudden, everybody local was up in arms, and we found ourselves a candidate. And we won a supervisor's spot, one of 3, and that was 2 years ago. We won it by 1 vote. 1 vote is what it takes. Your vote. Your neighbor's vote. This time around, we're not taking any chances. We've got a slate of candidates. Small d Democrats, small r Republicans, respected people from the community that we know and trust who will be responsible with that power on a unified slate for openness, for fiscal responsibility, and for cutting government. And the power brokers can't stand it. The supervisor we've got our sights on that we're gunning for is the chief of staff to one of the most powerful Pennsylvania state senators, Dave Argall, who says nice things, who's in favor of House and Senate Bill 76 and gun rights and all the right-wing things and conservative things and constitutional things, and takes more money from the Teachers Association than any other senator. Locally, State Senator Scott Wagner got into office on a write-in vote. He beat the Democrat and the Republican, and then went on to beat the Democrat who was left in the general election. And he's raising hell, trying to defund the unions by making contributions voluntary. I won't go into my story of how I sued the governor, how I sued the SEIU, how I won, and I'm still costing them millions. You can look that up too. The situation is good because people are getting bold. A few years ago, if you were aware and awake, you held back. Come on, we all did. Well, maybe not the father here. But most of us did. or we were used to people just going, oh God, it's Dan talking about politics again. Oh, I got to go get a beer. I'll be back. They never come back. Now they listen and ask for more. They want to know. When people wake up, we have to reach out to them. We have to show them that we have an open hand of friendship. And then we have to help educate them, because there's a lot of crap out there, folks, and it's deliberate. You think that all these crazy stories about Jade Helm and the crazy stories that you hear about, you know, Illuminati and Bilderbergers, and, you know, maybe they're true. I don't know. But they sound crazy. There's no proof to them. Don't tell them when they come to you some crazy story you can't prove. Tell them something that you know, that you can document, that you can prove. You can prove they're paying too much in taxes. You can prove the NSA is spying on every single one of us. You can prove that almost 60 million Americans have been murdered in abortion. You can prove these things. You don't even have to go to the other stuff. And when they get to that other stuff, rein them back in. Rein them back in and say, look, maybe it's true, and if you can find proof that chemtrails exist, I'll be happy to help with that. But right now, we've got actual court cases. We've got actual elections. We've got actual issues that we can deal with. And we're winning. In a town not far from me, a libertarian got elected, Sean Felty. And he spearheaded a fight to remove fluoride from the local drinking water, and he won. Why did he win? He won because he told the truth. The progressives, they're not even progressives anymore. I was a progressive. I didn't leave that movement. I believe in progress. They left me. They're statists. Once upon a time, when George Washington, in the middle of winter, with poorly trained, poorly fed, poorly equipped soldiers, full of heart, led them across the Delaware River in the middle of winter when ice was flowing in the river, leaving bloody footprints in the snow to attack the best mercenary force in the world, the Hessians. You couldn't be a Hessian mercenary unless you were over 6 foot tall. Back then the average height was 5'4". You were a giant. They fed you well. You were picked in your teenage years and trained. 6 years before you went to war. They were the best of the best. That's why George III picked them. That boldness is what we need now, but more. We need coordination, and we need unity. There's some stuff coming down the pike very shortly, in the near term, and I expect disaster. I don't know exactly what form that disaster will take, but I don't care about that disaster. As John Paul Jones said, I have not yet begun to fight. As David Farragut said, damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead. As General McAuliffe said, nuts. We will not surrender. Whatever that disaster or group of disasters that's looming on the horizon, and this doesn't take a conspiracy. We've spent ourselves into oblivion. The economy is about to go. Our electronic systems are vulnerable. Our electrical systems are vulnerable. Our water systems are vulnerable. We have enemies in this world, foreign and domestic. The military, while most of the volunteer rank and file are pretty damn good guys and gals, God bless them, the military leadership is a bunch of pukes, a bunch of cronies, a bunch of yes men. They may be good at military tactics. The generals, the admirals may be good at figuring out logistics, which is the main job of a general. But they're no good at following their oaths to the Constitution, because if you are good at that, they remove you. There has been a purge in our military at the top ranks, the next to top ranks, the medium ranks. They're down as far as captains now. They're cashiering people on no charge at all, denying them their pensions and kicking them out just when we need them. But that's to our advantage too, because the militia needs professionals. Expect betrayal. Some people were a little upset that we didn't have the 300 plus that were promised to show up here today. moving this lectern. I'm not upset. God bless those people. Some of them had legitimate issues. They broke down on the road. They had family emergencies. Others had things to go to they didn't expect. And some just said they would to be supportive and didn't really mean it. But there will be betrayal. In the liberty movement here in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware, over the last 2 years, there have been several people who I will not give the decency or honor of naming who have betrayed us. There was a sheriff that you're all probably familiar with, and several other people, one who self-styled himself a colonel. Expect it. This is human nature. Benedict Arnold was a hero. He was a legitimate hero until he wasn't. We're all tempted. We all have a price. It could be a threat. It could be a promise. Doesn't matter. Every one of you has a price. When they train military personnel on how to deal with being captured and interrogated, they say you hold out as long as you can and you'll break. But there's enough of us that even though we have some who will disappoint us terribly, the rest of us will carry on. And I set my price. You can set your price too. They could offer me fame. I rejected it. I'm not happy standing in front of a bunch of people and a video camera for YouTube. I like my privacy. What was left of it was good. I was in my 20s. I tried all this stuff. TV, radio was good, yay! And I thought, no, this sucks. So I got out of it. We all have to pay a price. They can't offer me money. I'm used to living poor. If I won the Powerball tonight, aside from a few nice motorcycles and things like that, I can't really imagine what good a jet would do, or a private island, or a whole bunch of servants, granite countertops, gold faucets. I mean, toilet's a toilet no matter what it's made of, right? And power. That's the ultimate aphrodisiac, they say. What if they offered you power? What if they said, you're going to have the ability to change things, to make a difference, to do what you think needs to get done? And the answer is, at what cost? And what kind of power is it? I don't need power. I've got power. I'm the most powerful man I know over me, except my wife, and my daughter, and my pets. I'll give them that power too. I don't want power over others. If you know somebody who likes power, who wants power over others, don't elect him. Have nothing to do with them. They're the most dangerous sort of person you can possibly imagine. Expect to stand alone except for a very few. But remember, folks, those few are the catalyst. They're the core that makes all the difference. We're way over 3% in this country right now. 3% is 9 million people. We're way over that. What happens in a disaster? What happens when a car crashes on the road and you're driving by? What happens when there's a house fire? Ordinary people who never expected to be heroes, who don't consider themselves to be heroes, step out, stop traffic, pull people from burning wrecks, go into burning houses to save people. They do this because that's what we're about. That's what people do. You can make a difference. You don't have to be someone who has technical skill like Stephen. You don't have to be somebody who can speak in front of a crowd or who can write. You don't have to be somebody who can write laws or lobby the legislature. These are all good things. You can be the person who shows up and brings food and water. You can be the person who shows up and makes everyone else feel good because you're there. Everybody who brings kids to these things, God bless them, because they remind us why we're fighting. Whatever you're doing, remember that in the field, one soldier, we're not talking special forces, one ordinary soldier requires 10 men and women to support them. Otherwise, they can't fight. Not for very long and not very well. Know that we will fight. And when that time comes, and it's coming now, we'll inspire others to join us. When there was a disaster in the Midwest and a bridge collapsed into the Missouri River, I think it was the Missouri, whatever river, big bridge, hundreds of cars. Traffic stopped on both sides, nothing could get through. People submerged in the river, hurt. There was a nurse. There was a doctor. There was an off-duty firefighter and 2 off-duty cops. 5 people. 5 people. And within a quarter of a mile of them, 10,000 people, all trapped in their cars, stuck there, not knowing what to do. The police officers knew how to move the cars, how to make a space, how to get people to behave themselves, how to get them calm. And they did that. The firefighter knew rescue techniques, and he set up a human chain. He grabbed the biggest guys and set them on the steps going down to the river. And they formed a human chain where he would extricate somebody and they were just passed on up, where the nurse knew how to do triage. You've got a broken leg, you can wait. You've got a gaping chest wound, we've got to work on you right now. You, unfortunately, we can't save. And the doctor did the rest. And because of their work, they were able to clear a space. Helicopters could come in. There was remarkably low loss of life for a major incident. If that had happened in any other part of the world, it would have been way worse. But we're Americans. We will survive. Once liberty is restored, we're going to thrive. People think it's going to take 100 years because it took the, can't say progressive, it's not true anymore, the statists, the same sort of people as the royalists used to be when Washington fought them. The people who believe that they can run your life and that they know better, but all they want is power. They think it's going to take us, everyone thinks it's going to take us 100 years, 50 years, 2 generations. No, no, it won't. First of all that indoctrination that everybody has, it's shallow. Widespread, but shallow. It didn't really take. Nobody really believes in socialism. They don't even have 3% in this country. What they do believe in is being an American, and if nothing else, American means I do what I want to do. You can't tell me what to do. I'm going to say what I'm going to say. You don't like it, too bad. That's all it takes. Anything more than that is gravy. If we've got that, we win eventually, and we've got that. Were we able to remove all the Republicans and Democrats from office who refuse to follow the oath to the Constitution, replace them with folks like you, and remove regulations that weren't required on people, on businesses, for anything other than actual harm like crime or dumping oil in a creek, actual fraud like lying when you're going to have a contract with somebody, an actual breach of contract, civil law. If we could do that, the economy would come roaring back because 1 million entrepreneurs would step into that breach and go, oh my God, I can do what I want. 900,000 of them would fail the first year. 100,000 wouldn't, because most of them would work harder and work smarter. And of those 100,000, 10, just 10 people would come up with some new game-changing thing that would make them billionaires, and they're welcome to it, because then the other 900,000 would have something to copy, and we'd be roaring back. 5 years, folks. It's not a 5-year Soviet plan, but 5 years. 1 presidential term and 1 more year. And we could be the envy of the world again. We could be more powerful than ever before because we'd be freer. This is not a choice. For people of conscience, there is no choice. Liberty? Tyranny? What choice is that? Even if I was willing to accept that for myself, how could I sentence my child to that? I don't want to die on my feet. I want to die an old man in my own bed, surrounded by the people who love me, peacefully. Isn't that what we all want? But I would die on my feet rather than sentence my children to live on their knees. Now, over the near horizon, there's some other good things we can expect. And that's going to be up to you to present those things to the rest of the people. New candidates. Some of you should be running for office. If not you, someone in your family or one of your friends should run for office. Of course they don't want to run for office. Who wants to go through that crap? But we need them. We need them to step up. There'll be new business models. Some of you are much better at making money than I am. I'm poor. That's okay. And losing a lung. We need a new attitude and approach to American government. We need involvement. I don't like all these committees and all these rules and all these lawyers. We need simple and direct. We need, just like they promised with Obamacare, whether it's local, state, or federal, we need them to broadcast exactly what the finished product that they want is. Leave us enough time to figure out what it means. Give us enough time to comment. Have them make the changes and then pass it or not based on our will. And we need to hold them accountable when they don't. Redemption is what's required for this country. We need redemption. Look, I was a progressive. I was a Marxist. I was a teenager. Over the years, life taught me otherwise. I'm a constitutionalist. I'm still a liberal because I believe in liberty. Redemption comes with a price. Repentance. For what you've done and what you haven't done, you're responsible. Believe me, some people here have done so much for so long, but they're responsible too, because whatever it was, it obviously wasn't enough. Look where we're at. So what are our jobs? Some of us are leaders. Some of us are followers. There's nothing wrong with that. Was George Washington, were he to be out here in 1776 in the snow at Christmas by himself with a musket, ready to cross the Delaware in a canoe, do you think he would have won? He couldn't win. Not without the generals who brought battalions, not without the non-coms who were trained, not without the men who marched without shoes. There is no unimportant job. And as somebody mentioned here today, credit, I think it was Mike Vold, credit's not important. It doesn't matter. Most of what I do, and it's a lot of public stuff, is behind the scenes. I don't care who gets the credit. I ghostwrite for people in the movement, in politics, because I'm good at it, and it sounds like them when they're done. Let them take the credit. Let them increase the amount of influence they have for liberty. In politics, we have work to do. If we don't want to have to fire guns in anger, we've got work to do. We could still win it peacefully. Those in power right now want to scare us into thinking that they have power. The federal government, every branch of the federal government, let's add, even though it's probably not something they could do, all the state employees, including, I work in the unemployment office. Let's add all the 70-year-old ladies who are ready to retire. Let's add the cafeteria workers at the school. Let's take every person who gets government money for work and arm them. And they don't match the number of hunters in Pennsylvania alone. They don't have this power. They can pick on one of us at a time. They can't pick on all of us. And if they were stupid enough to actually try, they'd lose everything. As it stands right now, if we win, some of the lawsuits that Stephen referred to are going to put some of the top people who we have proof on, after a fair trial, after appeals are exhausted, in prison. The rest of their followers go scot-free. They're free to continue to try and convince us that we have to bankrupt our great-grandchildren in order to pay for Obama phones and Mrs. Obama lunches and all kinds of crap. Our job, for some of us, includes militia. If you're physically capable, if your mind is right for that, if you have training or are willing to be trained, a militiaman is not a soldier. A militiaman is a person who lives in a community and prepares to be ready for eventualities. Most of the militia I know in my local area have yet to fire a shot in our anger, and I hope they never do. But they have on numerous occasions gone out and cleaned some place up. They've trained. When a child goes missing, they're there. When there's a brush fire that sweeps over the mountain, they're lending a hand with the shovel, with a pick, with a fire hose. That's the militia. So if that's your capability, join them or support them. We've got our lawsuits. There is no role. There is no job that's unimportant. In the long haul, we've got hard work for a very long time. Even though we can come roaring back, we have generations of Americans who never learned what we know. And they're going to have to learn it. If this is going to be more than a flash in the pan, if we're not only going to win, but have this continue into the future, we've got to re-educate America on what liberty means, on what government's proper role is. I'm not telling you that we need to re-educate them on how they should be. That's their choice. That's the beauty of it. But there is a way that used to work and won't work until we have enough people to keep society from craziness, from violence, and that's shunning them. In certain communities in this country, and it's not just the communities of color or ethnicity, believe me, there's white areas I could take you to in Philadelphia you wouldn't want to go. But in some communities, if you're on compy or you're on welfare, right. In some communities, if you have 6 different kids with 6 different mothers, oh right, and don't support any of them. If you're slinging drugs, all right. No, the communities need to reject that. And there are plenty of good people in those communities of all colors, of all ethnicities, who will reject that, but they're afraid. In Chiapas, Mexico, we spoke of Iceland. In Chiapas, Mexico, they have a big problem. The government is completely corrupt. The cartels are completely corrupt. They're the same people. They're brutal. They murder by the dozens. The people of Chiapas, they got sick of this. Even though it's very difficult to arm yourself legally in Mexico, there's plenty of guns there. After all, Eric Holder sent them across the border. And they armed themselves. We're not talking AR-15s. We're not talking .308 sniper rifles. We're talking 32 revolvers, single-shot shotguns, whatever they could afford. They don't have money. They armed themselves and they went through town. The guys who were their militia, the strong ones, some women too, and they basically grabbed up everybody off the street that they knew was a terrorist. And when the police came in to try and rescue the terrorists, the cartel thugs, they arrested a few of them too, and then they arrested the mayor of their town, the town council, and replaced them with people like us. And then when the army was threatening to come in and really wipe them out, they got on social media, and that wasn't going to play well, so the army backed off. And now, the government of Mexico, from Mexico City, the ruling party is trying to get these people to disarm. They're making all kinds of promises about what they'll do, but first, you have to disarm. We've heard that before. They refuse to disarm. A bright spot. I don't hate Mexico. I don't hate Mexicans. I wish that we could take back our freedom and help them take back their freedom. We could have a fine sister country right next door with a border, so we wouldn't have to worry about it. In the long haul, we're going to be at war. War with Islam. I hate to say it, I believe in freedom of religion. I have no problem if somebody decides they want to be a Muslim. That's their business. Until and if they start affecting me and my family, that's my business. I have a wife. I have a daughter. I have a sister-in-law. I have a mother-in-law. I have cousins. These people, these women, are no better or worse than any man. They have every right that any man has. It doesn't say men or women when we talk about constitutional rights which come from God. It says the people, which means individuals. You want to cover up in 90-degree heat with a bed sheet? Go for it. I don't have any problem with the Amish. They live a life that's very backward in some ways, no technology. That's their business. They don't try and force me or my wife or my daughter to live their way. There's a Cold War that's brewing. Some of you remember the Cold War. It wasn't so cold. Vietnam was part of the Cold War. Korea was part of the Cold War. There's going to be surrogate wars with powers that are inimical to our interests, with Russia and China. They want to rule the world. They will work together and figure they can fight it out like Stalin and Hitler were going to fight it out after one of them after they knock us out of things. Well, they're not knocking us out. Finally, and this may sound a little out there, when I was looking at this a couple of years ago, I didn't even like to think it was true. I thought, oh, that's a movie. But if you look today, the technology is rapidly increasing. We have to take back liberty, so we have our freedom, so we have our prosperity, so we can win the wars that the international enemies are going to be fighting us after we win here and after we win abroad. And we hopefully will be able to do it with surrogates. Like people fight for their own country, we help them instead of sacrificing all of our blood and treasure. We're going to be fighting the machines. Already, they are designing. They can't wait for this. The statists want autonomous thinking machines. They are on their own. They learn. They make their own electronic mind up as to what to do, and they have lethal capabilities. They can swarm you. You can't possibly shoot 10,000 drones the size of a bumblebee or the size of a hummingbird out of the air that are all equipped with a gram of explosive, which is just enough to blow your head off. Number 9 shot works great, but there's just not enough people with shotguns. There is a way to win that too. The way to win that is to empower people so that we don't have those in our borders. There are technological ways to deal with any technology. They made bank vaults better, and Willie Sutton kept breaking into them. He liked the challenge. Every single thing that we've come up with as far as a brand new technology, somebody else has come up with a way to improve on it and to defeat it. But we're going to have that fight too. There are a number of different worlds that we could live in, folks, and I'm going to use a movie analogy because most of us, whether we're sophisticated or not, love movies. We've seen a lot of movies. We've got the thing that they're trying to scare us with, and that's Mad Max. That's anarchy. That's violence, where the biggest, meanest, nastiest thugs do the most unspeakable things to anyone you love because they have the power to do it, and they'll kill you to get that. Well, good luck. I don't think they're going to have that, because we'll band together. In my community, we have a couple bad guys, but we don't have any thugs. Good luck to anybody coming down the pike trying to get into my little town. Then we've got 1984, and we're not on the cusp of that, folks. We're there right now. And that's where the government has absolute knowledge of every single thing that you do. The only thing that's different between that book and today is that the government hasn't managed to punish every single person every time they step out of line. They use examples because they're not as powerful as they'd like us to think. And then we've got Terminator, Rise of the Machine. And that's a scary one. That's a real scary one. I'd rather have a nation of free individuals all thinking about solutions than just a handful of scientists in a lab. We know that they don't always come up with the right solutions. But there's one more possible future. Star Trek. A future where we've solved the energy problem, which means we've solved the resource problem, the money problem, where everybody has whatever they need, at least a minimum. So if you want to sit on your couch and eat Cheetos, you just tell the replicator you want another bag of Cheetos and a Pepsi, and bing, there you go. Plenty of entertainment. But if you want to go to school, you can do that for your whole life if you want. You're not harming anyone. Energy is free. And if you want to teach others, or you want to be an engineer, or you want to be a doctor, or after 20 years you want to switch careers and learn something else, wherever you want to do, if you want to be an adventurer, you want to design things, you want to be in business, you can do it. And nobody has to do business with you unless you offer them value. And if you offer them value, you'll get something in return. And where the prime directive is don't screw with people, where their government is specifically told you can do business with people who are willing to do business with you, but you are not to mess with anybody else's life, their culture, their civilization. Live and let live. And that's pretty much what America was designed to be in the first place. And I think we're going to make it, because we haven't got any choice. And when Americans' backs are to the wall, lazy, selfish, apathetic, uninformed, idiot Americans suddenly aren't. Thank you. Oh, and I'd like to introduce. Oh, you can clap if you want.
Yeah, good job, boy.
Thank you. Father Richard Davidson.
I've been involved in this business for a good many years. A long time ago, I served as county committeeman. I was one of the counselors at Ground Zero. I think most of us here have resumes, and if we put everybody's resume out, we'd have nothing but resumes for all day. I don't think that's what we need to hear. I did want to mention, though, a group I'm a member of is the Second Amendment Preservation Society, and I mention that for a couple of reasons. Number one, Nick Purpura, Chaplain Nick Purpura, has filed a 76-page brief with the federal court, not the state because it would do no good, charging the governor of New Jersey and most of the people who are running the state in violation of their commitment and their oath of office. We have 196 laws in the state of New Jersey that violate the U.S. Constitution in the Second Amendment. Now, I'm mentioning this because it's something people would like to know. And also, Nick Purpura is going in this week for a cancer operation, and I ask all your prayers for him. He is an amazing patriot and doing an incredible job. Now, I did want to mention one other thing. There are a lot of people who think that the Constitution has given us rights. Tell these people that is not the truth. The Constitution guarantees the rights that God has given us. And no one but God has the right to take them away. When people come for your rights, they are evil. We're not dealing with people who are wrong. Yes, they are wrong. But they're fighting against God. We are fighting to serve God, to serve our country, and to serve our children and grandchildren.
I just wanted to mention one thing that I actually forgot that was pretty important. This flag that you see here was presented to us by the 17th Airborne Veterans who were at the Battle of Bulge. They knew what we were going to be doing here today. They wanted this flag flying because they know we're doing a good job. We're going to be wrapping it up here shortly. We just would like everyone to know that the bikes are going to line up. If you would like to come with us, we are going to go across the bridge, across the Delaware, to the Patriot Tavern, which is directly on the other side of the bridge. Mr. Wah he's going to put out some chafing dishes. There's going to be food available. There will be beer available out back if you'd like a beer. We'd like you to join us. I know it's been a long day for everybody that's been here. Come over and have a beer, have a soda, sit down and relax for a little while. If you could come with us, we'd appreciate it. Thank you.
And we'll all be going over to the tavern there. It's really nice, I'm told.
Patriots Tavern.
Patriots Tavern.
Patriots Tavern. Patriots Cross the Tavern. It's just across the bridge. I mean, you basically cross stone.